You are greatly beloved. For God himself to come and search the earth for us.
Let's have a round of applause for the messenger of Allah.
Everywhere you hear him, listen to him. Everywhere you see him, look at him. Everywhere he advised you to go, go. Everywhere he advised you to stay from, stay from. So we are thankful to Allah for this great helper of mine, Minister Farrakhan. And I say continue to hear our Minister Farrakhan.
So those of you who thought you would come out here to see a weak, fragile, decrepit Farrakhan, I want you to look again. I'm here and I'm strong, and I will look down on all of my enemies, for he promised me that sit thou at my right hand while I make all your enemies your footstool.
This child that you deliver will soon deliver you. Maria, did you know your baby boy gives sight to a blind man? Maria, did you know your baby boy calm the storm with his hand? Did you know your baby boy has come to make you new? This child that you deliver will soon deliver you, oh Maria. The Bible says, dead will hear, dead will live again. The lame will leap, the dumb will speak, the praises of the Lamb. Did you know that your baby boy is Lord of all creation? Sweet, did you know that your baby boy they rule the nations? Did you know that your baby boy has come to make you new? The sleeping child you're holding is a great I
In 1973, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said to me, and I'm quoting him, maybe others of you heard him say it. He said, brother, I don't like to think about it. I don't like to talk about it. But the nation is going to take a dive for the second time. He said it's going to go all the way down to nothing. When he saw the pain come into my face, he said, but don't worry, brother. It will be rebuilt, and it will never fall again.
For the pioneers, those that did what they did to help establish Islam in America. Islam that was so strange. The name Muhammad, which was so strange. The name Ali and Kareem and Jabbar, which was so strange. Now we can turn on our television, listen to the sports newscasters. There's a Sharif, there's a Jabbar, there's an Ali, there's a Muhammad, there's a Salam. The names aren't so strange anymore, but somebody had to pay a price that name and those names and that Islam and Muhammad and the Quran would not be a strange thing in America.
It's an honor to be able, and a privilege to be able to interview you, to get some of your experiences and share with the believers and to everyone your personal experiences being a believer and a follower of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
Yes, sir.
How did you come into the teachings? How did you come into the teachings? How were you introduced into the teachings of Honorable Elijah Muhammad?
Well, I was very young in age and into my marriage. And my husband went to the temple. We didn't call it mosque back then. Okay. It was temple number 37. And he went, and of course, I stayed back because he had to feel things out. And when he got there, he met a brother, and he was so enthused with it that he brought me to a meeting. And when we got home, he said, "Did you sign the papers?" And I said, "No, I was one that was very cautious."
Okay.
And he was very disappointed. He said, "What?" And I said, "Well, I felt so bad because he was so depending on me, just coming right in with him."
Yes, ma'am.
I didn't see in it what he saw in it. But I came to a couple of more meetings, met with the sisters, and I fell in love with it also.
Okay.
So that was my beginning.
So what made you make that decision for you, not for him, but for you? What was some of the things that stood out that said, okay, this is what I want to follow?
What stood out for me was the sisters.
Mm-hmm.
They embraced me like I was family.
Right.
I had 2 children at that time and was pregnant with a third. And the captain, she was just so warm. And she talked to me in a very calm, soothing voice, introduced me to other sisters, and kind of gave me an overall view of what I should expect. And so once I came to the initial meetings and started the classes, I knew that was for me because it focused on the woman,
Right.
you know. So I just fell in with the sisters. And the other thing that really drew me in was the fact that we had these lessons that we had to learn.
Okay.
I was always a good student.
Yes.
So my husband and I, of course, competed to learn the lessons and get our X's.
Yes, ma'am.
So that was a no-brainer.
So did you win the competition?
I did.
Now, I understand you did an interview with one of our juniors. And we want to take just a look at some of the things that you had covered in the interview. So we'll just watch and see how that interview went.
Okay.
Assalamualaikum.
Walaikum salam.
How did you feel when the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan began rebuilding the Nation of Islam?
I was relieved, but most of all, I felt comfort because he brought back the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He brought back the Nation of Islam. He brought back the brothers and the sisters. And so I was just excited and very comforted because he eased the feeling that we had of distress.
What do you mean when you mean like relief or distress?
The distress came when everything about what I knew of the nation changed. And that was the messenger's son took over. Everything was changed. Our flag, our community, the teachings that his father had given to us. But when Brother Minister Farrakhan returned, he initiated that teaching that his father, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, had taught him. But most of all, I think it was that he gave us understanding.
What advice would you like to give to our nation?
If I just went from history, it would be to follow the example that we have in our midst today, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and also his son, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And I think if we follow those two, we will not go wrong.
I came in the Nation of Islam in 1970. Of course, I was from South Carolina, went to the Air Force, and then after I got out of the Air Force, I joined the Nation of Islam. When I went to the mosque, I heard Minister Theodore X, his name changed for the Minister Theodore Hamza. I heard him, and that was the edge of my seat, hearing his teaching. And a lot of times, you don't know why you're equipped or why you're fascinated by certain things. But when you start studying the teaching of Elijah Muhammad, particularly hearing the minister, you find out that Allah has equipped you along the way.
Yes, sir.
With certain knowledge and understanding that you're not aware of. Mm-hmm. But however, when you come in contact with the source, and the source was the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the source was Minister Farrakhan, and Minister Theodore Hamza ignited me. So when I heard it, I was really fascinated. So I heard all this great knowledge, so I wanted to know more about it. So the books of Elijah Muhammad, I started reading, Message of the Black Man in America. I read How Did to Live, and then eventually came out The Fall of America, Our Savior Arrived. But anyway, I read all the books, and I wanted to be just like the other brothers. So what I did was that I just started reading Muhammad Speak newspapers. So I went to a brother's house because I wanted to get some of the old issues and read it. And so he said, well, okay, well, come to my house. Let's go in the basement. We're in the basement, and there was Muhammad Speak everywhere.
Yes, sir.
So what I did, he allowed me to collect a copy of each one. And when I got through, I had about 2 stacks, about maybe about 2 feet high. And over a 6-month period of time, I read all those articles in the the Muhammad Speak from cover to cover.
Yes, sir.
When I first heard Islam, it was like, you've been in a copper mine all your life and was blind that truth was so bright that you couldn't open your eyes when you first heard it. And but it was so piercing that you could not help to keep it to yourself. You had to tell somebody else.
Beautiful. Yes.
So I went to my grandfather owned a bar, and we lived next door to it. So I'd be in the bar, you know, he let us come in sometime when it wasn't many people there. And I'd be preaching Islam in the bar. And we had the little house parties, and I'd be preaching at the parties, and, you know, everybody thought I was funny. They didn't really want to hear it, but I couldn't shut my mouth anyway. My stepfather, he was the first one in my home to be introduced to Islam, and he fell right in it. And so when he come home, he would start to bring some of the items that they had at the mosque, like they always had dinner after the meeting down the basement. They had the kitchen, and they had bean soup and whole wheat bread and whole wheat muffins and croutons. And they did no frying. They didn't fry any food, but them sisters could make baked fish taste better than fried fish. And they, of course, they made the 3 pies, was the bean pie, the carrot pie, and the white potato pie. And so my stepfather, he used to bring some of those items to the house. But we didn't like the fact that he had joined the nation in the first place, because black people were afraid of all those names, like Muhammad. When you mention Muhammad, just that one name would make black people think that's voodoo. And they were afraid of voodoo.
Right.
And so when my stepfather would bring stuff home, we would not touch it.
Yes, sir.
As we were going back to the bus stop to go home, we could hear the voice of one of the representatives of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad preaching inside. The door was standing open. The flag was above the door. Muhammad's Holy Temple of Islam, number 43, and a brother with a suit and bow tie, clean, lean, and mean, was standing on the outside, and he bid to us, come in and hear the representative of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. We went in, we sat down, we heard the presentation. This brother was preaching on a variety of things. He talked about Santa Claus and how could he deliver toys to 7.5 billion people all over the world in less than 12 hours, and all of these kinds of things. And some of us don't even have chimneys, and how did he get down there? Then he went from there into Frankenstein, how the black man is put together by many different philosophies, and how we are now a monster walking like a zombie in the world. And at the end of it, the signature question was, how many of you believe what you heard was the truth and good for us as a people? I raised my hand. And then the second question was, if you believe what you heard to be the truth, how many of you want to join and become a part of your nation, the Nation of Islam? I raised my hand again, and so did my friend. We left. And of course, 6 months went by. I never did get a chance to get back, even though I meant what I said. But a typical Negro, you know, we
Yes, sir.
still have high school girlfriends, distractions, and street life.
Yes,
That
sir.
we were involved in. And so after that, a brother who is now my brother-in-law, my wife's brother, he had a friend, and I had a friend named Kevin Muhammad, Kevin King at that time, who approached me one day and said, hey, I know this Muslim brother, you know, and this guy is deep, man. You need to meet him. You know, you talk about blackness, these brothers is down on it. I said, okay, I'll go. So his older brother, my brother-in-law's older brother, which is also, of course, my brother-in-law, he had a burgundy Fleetwood Brougham Cadillac. And he would go up to, that's right, Cadillac of Cadillac. Those were the luxury cars of black people back in that day.
Yes,
You know,
sir.
you had the deuce and a quarter, you had the Bonneville, you had the 98 that Malcolm X drove. And so we went to Mansfield, and to my surprise, the brother of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Minister John Muhammad, was the minister there. And when we walked in, he had his FOI uniform on, his P.O. box hat, and this brother was a master, literally a master of the Bible story. When he preached on a Bible story, literally, without exaggeration, you were there. You were walking in the footsteps of those that he was describing, and it penetrated me deeply because I was a student of scripture. My father was a Baptist preacher, and I went to church willingly. I was not like other children who didn't want to go to school or Sunday school. I was up, ready, Bible study, Bible summer camp. I was there, poetry recitals. Donnell was all in. And so when I heard the exegesis of the ministers of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, I had never heard the interpretation of the scriptures like that. My father was a good preacher, but he never could explain and interpret the scriptures the way the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's representatives did. I was sold.
Assalamu alaikum, sis.
Walaikum salam, beloved.
Yes. Let's get started. So yes, ma'am. So sis, I never got how long you've actually been in the nation.
Since 1972.
Yes, ma'am. Praise be to
I
Allah.
was registered, my letter, April of 1972. And I really stood out because my birth name is Harold Elizabeth.
Yeah, Harold? You said Harold Elizabeth? Yeah. Harold. Oh, you definitely stood out.
They set back, sister, you can't use that name. But everyone called me Harriet. So I set back Harriet. So
yes,
they said that was acceptable. So I became Harriet X. I'm trying to do and live what I say I believe in.
Yes, ma'am.
And as I said, I heard a little man say something I was looking for. I know nothing about the religion of Islam. He said he wanted to build a nation for black people. And my revolutionary mind said, yes, I want to help build that building. I want to be part of that. Okay, I really do want to be a part of that. And so that's what I came in, to be a brick. Just one brick. Somebody else come along, and with the teachings we join together, we another brick. We build it. Then we build a building we got to maintain. I'm not the greatest fisherman in the world. Believe me, I'm not. But I'll fight like hell to keep the building up.
I know that's right, sis. I know that's right. So what's the next one? How were you affected by the departure of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad?
Devastated. My whole family. But I didn't believe it. Because the teachings to me were, until it's an actual fact. And I was in a cab when I heard it come over the news on the radio, or in the cab listening to the radio, preparing to go to Chicago. And when I heard that and I got home to my family, because then we didn't have cell phones and all. When everybody was in the house and we were all preparing, the children and everything, we're going to go to Chicago. We had been there in 1974. And we were like, no, somebody has to tell us something more than what they're saying.
Yeah.
So they went out to find out. And they came back and said, well, they're saying, yeah, the messenger is dead. But it wasn't registering. It took it a long, long time for us. We were devastated. And then we said, well, okay, we're going to continue to do what we've been doing. We're going to go every Sunday. The brothers, my sons, and the daddy and all were looking, yeah, we're going out with the paper, going out with the Muhammad Speaks. They were looking to continue. There shouldn't be a break.
Yes, ma'am.
Continue to do what they've been doing. To find out, no. And then that's when we realized that the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad was not here in charge, and nor was Louis Farrakhan.
Wow.
And when everything that we had worked for, you know, we had gone that summer of 1974, we went to Chicago and we went to our supermarket. Your supermarket. You're looking at products that says your products. To find out now that don't exist no more. To go to 116th Street and find out that's not the mosque that we understood it no more. Muhammad Speaks is not being going out with the brothers no more. I'm looking for my sons and all. I'm looking for the no more. Classes don't exist no more. We continue to live like we had been living at home. We never stopped eating the right way. The security of the family and of the house became even more relevant. We were devastated, the whole family. My children were like, no, what do we do? We continued to live our life, but it was almost like we weren't living a real life. We were in suspension waiting for something.
February the 25th, I get a call from my son who was standing guard outside the messenger's room. My son said, Daddy, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad just passed. I said, son, are you sure? He said, yes, sir, Daddy. I didn't know what to do. I don't know how you felt, but I was lost. Because the messenger didn't tell me he was going to die. He said, I'm going away for 3 years. He said, and I'm going away to study, brother. He said, now don't you change the teaching while I'm gone. I'm telling you just what he said. And I don't care if you don't believe me. Don't make me no difference. Because Allah is sufficient as a witness. And I don't play with Allah. Brother, he said to me, now, brother, he said, what I've given you is just a wake-up message. He said, but if you are faithful, when I return, he said, I will reveal the new teaching through you. I'm telling you just his words to me. Now, brother, when they tell me that he's dead, you figure out what happened in my mind. He said he was going for 3 years, he's coming back. Well, what does that mean? If he's dead, if he's gone, what can I do? I got confused. And I said, well, man, I can't. Even though he told me that I could sit in the chair as a father over the house in his absence, he said that too. But I can't lie to you. I can't play no games with your life. This ain't about a game. And if I didn't think I knew what the next step was, I couldn't sit in the seat. So on February the 25th, I got on a plane and went to Chicago, called Elijah Muhammad Jr. and told him I was in town, then looked at the TV, and on the TV was Jeremiah Shabazz, Abbas Rasul, and Kareem Hassan saying that Wallace Muhammad is the new leader. and Jeremiah Shabazz was the new national representative. I had been wiped out just like that.
So when Wallace took over, Emmanuel Dean took over, and that change,
Yes.
how did you deal with that transition?
That was a blow for me,
Uh-huh.
because I had only heard the Minister Louis Farrakhan,
Uh-huh.
speak a couple of times,
Right.
but had read articles in the Muhammad Speaks from him, and I saw in him a knowledge that really made me want to learn more.
Wow.
So we just naturally felt, my husband and I just naturally felt that he would be the one to take his father's seat.
Right.
When the Honorable Elijah Muhammad left us, it was devastating. It was devastating. But the thing that helped me most was when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was president, he put the minister on the radio.
Yes,
and the minister will come on every Sunday morning at 10 or 11 o'clock. At that time, service at 2.
Right.
So every Sunday morning, we would listen at the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And he would ignite our hearts, you know.
Yes, sir.
You know, and at that point, you understand, I fell in love with the minister.
Right.
Yet I was in Mosque 18, yet under Minister Theodore Hamza. But the minister somehow, you understand, ignited you in a spiritual way that you wanted to be like him.
Right.
After the departure of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, how would you consider the mental health state of the believers, and how were you affected?
Well, actually, during that time, I was not going to the mosque because I was like a teenager. But I do know the effects that it had on the believers. Okay. The imam, he had them, because he destroyed all of the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And he had the sisters going back into the far as how they were dressing. They were coming to the mosque, you know, with their cleavage showing, and you know, it was just a mess. Because I did come into the mosque that one time, and I saw that, and I said, oh no, I think that something's very, very wrong here.
Yes.
You know, so a lot of them were very confused. A lot of them turned around and went back to the streets. And the ones that did hang on, they went with War of Deen Muhammad. So it was a confusing state at that time.
How were you affected by the departure of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, if we can go back a little bit?
Sure, without a question, my sister. And whatever we need to do, we'll do it.
Yes, sir.
I was affected like many others. We all have our personal psychosis and psychological damage that occurred during that time.
Yes, sir.
Again, as I shared with you, if he was no longer God in person, the messenger was no longer the messenger of God, I fell back into some bad habits. A little drink here, a little puff there, and kind of really lost my way. Muhammad taught us that God was a man for 44 years. Another man comes along and says he's a spook, and then we say, okay, and then just walked away. As a result of that, there were many believers that literally went into psychological, nervous breakdowns.
Yes.
There was a brother, the minister tells the story, where he went to this like an insane asylum or psychiatric ward, and a brother had a afro on one side of his head and a tight fade on the other side, and was asking him. The messenger didn't lie to us, did he? Who was the original man? And he was just kind of, he was just so hurt. So we were all hurt, and of course I went into a state of, which you might say, depression, if you will, just to trying to figure out what was it all for. I mean, what happened? I mean, I couldn't believe it when I heard the news in that Savior's Day for 75, that he had passed, because we know that the many times he had come to that point and always came back. And then it was later that I found out, as the minister began to recite and reprove the teaching again, then it began to resurrect in me that part of the teaching. As I told you earlier on, I was a scriptural baby. And so because that's why I came in and accepted the teaching, as opposed to others who may have came in because of business, because of the militancy. My brother-in-law, the older one, he came in because of the militancy and the business. Others came in because of a cute sister or a cute brother. Others came in because of the farmland, this, that, and the other. I came in for one reason, and that was I loved the scriptures and I loved the writings and explanations of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And so when everything went awry, once that word came back and was revived in me again by the delivery of the spirit of the minister, it forced a life into me again. He resurrected me again for a second time.
My thought was then, well, we building a nation, right, and I wanted to get away from the white man, so world. And so what I did is that in my mind, I dismissed him totally and immersed myself in the teachers. Now, when the Elijah Muhammad left us, that was devastating. But the point I was trying to make is that the minister had equipped us so much in the fact that the Elijah would be leaving, right then, and based on scripture, based on knowledge, and based on history, he had equipped us with knowledge. But we always thought, talking about myself and others that I was associated with as brothers, we thought maybe perhaps when the Elijah left, he would come back in 3 years, right?
Yes.
So that was the belief. Not that he dead and gone,
right,
but he'll be back in 3 years, And so the part was that waiting. That part was waiting those 3 years. And I kind of survived for the first 2 years. But after the 3rd year, I kind of fell by the wayside just like everybody else.
Right.
When Wallace started talking about his father, you don't know this, Brother Muhammad. You don't know this, Sister Muhammad. None of you know it. But I went to Wallace. I said, brother, in fact, when I went in his office, he had the tape recorder going. All these guards standing around. I can't talk to the leader of the nation and cut him down in the presence of his God. I want to talk to him alone, man to man. And I've been talking to him like that, brother, long before I ever knew there was a Silas Muhammad in the world. I talked to that man face to face, tooth to tooth. I ain't afraid of a damn soul, brother, but Allah and his messenger. I want you all to know it. I said to him, brother, I said, Malcolm made that mistake. I said, you got a short track record. You just got started. I said, if you attack your father, whom everybody's faith is in, I said, and make the people think that he is immoral, the people will go back into the world. I said, leave your father alone and go on and do what you have to do. I'm telling you what I told him. I told him this in the Watergate in December of 1975. I told him again on a tape in either March or April of 1976. I told him, look, I didn't come here to sit around and die. I said, the messenger put too much in me. If you don't want me, I'll leave you just like you left him. But you don't know what I told him, because I wasn't going out on the mountain. I was talking to him, honoring my word. But it was killing me. I tried to preach what he preached, because I couldn't answer the question. A new teacher was coming. Maybe this is it. Or maybe this is what the messenger was leading us into. The truth or the practice of the Quran, like it's practiced over there. I'm trying to read the thing out. Every day I'm slipping further down, losing the spirit till I got so, I just didn't know what. You mean to tell me 20 years I've been preaching lies? So I just shut my mouth. And in January of 1977, Wallace Muhammad called me. I had been silent for 4 months. He said, brother, the spirit is dying in the nation, and frankly, we are hurting because you are not speaking. As God is my witness, He said, brother, I would like for you to go back to New York. Or you can have Chicago or Los Angeles or Cleveland or Detroit. I said, well, I can't go back to New York unless somebody go in and clean up all the garbage that's been thrown on my name in New York. You know what he told me? He said, those that threw that on you in New York, they're not in the temple anymore. I said, but they live in the city. Now, what am I saying this to you for, brothers and sisters? I'm saying this to you because I was talking to him, challenging what he was saying to the messenger before August 1977. That had been going on quietly and privately since 1975, December. I'm trying to harmonize his teaching until I got so stretched out, I found out I couldn't preach for the Father and the Son at the same time. I had to make a decision between that Father and that Son. And I still didn't know who he was. Traveled all over this world. I began to hate religion. And finally, a brother right here in this room tonight, Bernard Cushman, called me on a telephone and said, brother, where's Wallace and Prophecy? I said, I don't know. I ain't read the Bible in a long time now. I screw with it, brother. I'm just telling you the truth. He said, you don't know where he is? I said, no, I don't. I preached the messenger in the temple right in Wallace's face. I told them in there, I said, you got a nerve not wanting to speak his name, and he built this house. He gave you everything you got, including the email. That was my last sermon that I preached in temple number 2. That was right in his face. All right, brother, I don't need no medal. I should have done it a long time ago. But there was a weakness in me. There was a little germ of hypocrisy in me that God had to manifest and bring out. Ain't nothing wrong with it. I'm facing the germ in me. How many of you are facing the germ in you?
If we are going to establish the kingdom of God, which is the language that we use, the New Jerusalem, the wheel is going to land and do all these great things. We have fantastical ideas.
Right.
America's going to burn, a total of 1,000 years, burning and cooling off. These things create great visuals.
That's right. That's right.
What I've learned in my years is that the actual reality of these big truths doesn't always look like I thought it was going to look.
Right, right.
And now these big events are upon us. And again, looking back at what happened in 75 and why it was allowed to happen, and interpreting that appropriately using the lenses of the minister, who we believe had the best view of all of that. He confessed his own hypocrisy when he believed that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was in fact dead, and what his life became. And the moment he began to think different, the turnaround happened.
That's right.
The minute I heard the minister Farrakhan was back, I had all my books and my material, and I had it in a big footlocker, and I had it at a brother's house, because I had left and went to California for 3 years, came back to Cleveland. And so when I heard he was back, I went in and got all my material and started reading. And the first Savior's Day was in 81. We went to Savior's Day and went to Savior's Day. And then the minister, told us about the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was alive. And, oh God, I'm excited. So anyway, they asked who would like to set up in the different cities. So we had to write a letter, giving our intention. So we wrote this letter. The other brother wrote this letter giving our intention. And so they say, you be in contact. They'll be in contact with you. So Brother Kareem out of New Jersey, Plainsfield, New Jersey, he was over the eastern region. and he was building for the minister,
Yeah,
right? And so he responded and said, well, we coming to Cleveland. And I was the host. I was the host, you know. And he came to Cleveland, and he brought mosque number 43, Columbus, Ohio, all the brothers from Columbus, you know. And so came to the house, and then invited it was myself, and it was 10 other people that had the same interest.
Right.
And so Brother Kareem interviewed everybody. In the final end, he appointed me. I mean, I was shocked and surprised, you know, because, you know, I just had the desire, you know, at the point, you know, a lot of times you don't think that you have the knowledge or the wisdom to do that. How can I do this? But anyway, I was willing to join anyone at that point to help the minister.
Yes.
During this time, every time the leader gave instructions,
yes, sir,
we lost some people. So when we were told to give our names back, many refused and walked away. When we were told to be study groups as opposed to temples, many walked away.
yes, sir.
When we were told to give up titles the first time, way back in 82 or so, many walked away, had a problem with that, with just being a brother.
When the Honorable Elijah Muhammad departed, there were people who lost their minds. They were in insane asylums and places like that. They had returned to their vomit. They thought that they had a handle on what they were doing. And I'm not judging.
Right.
Because we haven't proved that yet.
Right.
But we're looking at, well, what happened before, so I can try as best as I'm able to not repeat that history. And then validate those believers who came before me and the work that they put in. They gave their whole lives in many cases, man, for what they believe was the truth as taught by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Right. However they interpreted that, whether they worshiped him inappropriately, I'm not here to make that call. But they did leave us something to work with. And so I may be jumping ahead, but when we started doing work down here in Akron, they began to surface.
Right.
And they were happy to see us out. And they were looking to see, well, who are you really? And do you have enough to do this work? Do you have enough in you to do this work, the hardest job that's ever been given to any messenger or prophet that ever lived?
Right.
They were thinking that. They didn't ask me that personally, but I can tell they wanted to know, are you for real? You know, and by what is the evidence of your sincerity? So they would watch you over an expanse of time.
Right.
And they would give us little hints that they once believed. And when I picked up on that, I knew we had to do something to say to them, thank you.
I was just so elated to be back in the nation. And coming back in Detroit made it even better because it was real cultural, you know. So my husband had taken me down to see Minister Farrakhan for the first time at the Stevenson building. And at that time, he was bringing in probably about maybe 2,000 people.
Ooh.
And he took the time to shake everybody's hand. And I had the opportunity to, you know, shake his hand. And also, it was the brother Talib that was in Highland Park, Michigan. Isn't that maybe about 5 or 10 minutes from Detroit? And he had set up a mosque over there. He had the building was very big. He had a mosque, a school, and a restaurant.
Ooh.
And I was working over there. I was pregnant with Mutaka at the time, you know, when that was going on. And he afforded us the opportunity to go to Minister Farrakhan's home. It was about maybe 15 of us. And we all got the chance to sit down in Minister Farrakhan's home and talk with him.
I think he must have heard it through a brother because we weren't going to the temple during that period of Wallenstein. And so we had to see for ourselves. So when we came and it was confirmed that indeed the minister Louis Farrakhan had taken the duty of putting the nation back to where his father had it.
Right.
I was overjoyed.
Yes, ma'am.
There couldn't have been a better revelation for me and my husband at that time. And so, of course, we started going back to the mosque.
When we started really getting into trying to service the community at large, Brother Jimmy, it wasn't, I began to really understand that the support of the elders, we had a handful of elders, some that I mentioned and others who came along that really made it possible for me to understand that what I was doing was okay. And I think the thing that people appreciated the most looking back was that we had a genuine expression. They expected us to make mistakes. They knew we were young and trying to figure some things out. But the genuine expression was relevant then, and I think it's still relevant today.
Yes, sir.
But Elijah, you can't tell me you got a great teacher and your love is shallow. You can't tell me you have a great leader and your love is fickle. You can't tell me you got a great teacher, a great prophet, and you can only hang on while the prophet is among you. But the moment the prophet is gone, vanity and envy and all these wicked characteristics manifest because each one wants a page.
Preparing for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's departure is a tall order. And I don't know how to do it. We only have cues in what we witnessed, saw, or heard about with those who follow the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And what we have heard the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan say to us as it relates to why the nation fell. He's also been preparing us as far back as I can remember, since 1992, that he was going away. I was hearing him say that directly and didn't know how to think about it then. But as an older brother now, believer now, I have different thoughts about what that means for me, what that means for us, what that means for my children, my grandchildren, inshallah, my great-grandchildren one of these days. So we start doing that kind of math, what are we doing now and how what we're doing now and what has gone before us will weigh in for our children and generations to come. If we believe that what we're doing is actually establishing the foundation for the kingdom of God. If we don't believe that, then we're just wading in the water, so to speak. And when I'm gone, then my exercises, my work, whatever I was trying to build, it will dissolve and go away too. But we haven't seen evidence of that, Brother Jimmy. So when Sister Fatia brought the idea, I thought, well, this is great because we had been trying to use the rostrum, moments in study group, other instances to try and communicate and get believers to start talking about it. I know we were being affected. There's no way you can love a man like we claim that we love the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and then after working with him for as many years as we have, for him to go away in whatever capacity and it not affect us at all. We just keep moving as though nothing has happened. I liken it unto the sun going out and then not coming up the next morning. People would ask questions, well, where's the sun? How come the earth stopped moving, or whatever they might define as the reason why? But over time, people would begin to lose their minds. They would lose their balance. They would become insane because that sun regulates so many parts of our lives. And the Holy Quran refers to Muhammad as a light-giving sun. And we know that one of the names of Farrakhan is Muhammad. He is the light of the world right now. And as such, when that light goes out and darkness covers the earth, almost like it was in the beginning, but in reverse. The sun, he said, let there be light, and there was. But now we're talking about a situation where the light is going to be taken away. And then you and I will have to function off of whatever light we have. Surah 57 in iron. And everybody won't have a light. People will begin to go hysterical. And when that happens, will we have enough of a foundation to weather that kind of storm and not lose our minds ourselves.
We had his lectures, we had his speeches, we had so much we could have gone back each other. We didn't do that, we didn't know it. But now we have no excuse. We have no excuse. We have DVDs, CDs, printed material, each other. We have a council. We have so much that we could fall back on. I'm pretty sure if I was feeling in any kind of way that I might be just leaning a little bit, I could call you.
Yes, ma'am.
And you would give me something.
Yes, ma'am.
We have each other. So we have no excuse. We have the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad has been preparing us from 1930 for disaster preparedness. When the Honorable Louis Farrakhan, and I like to call him my SUN, an illuminating light, my big brother.
Yes.
When he does make his absence known to us, he won't be absent.
Mm-hmm.
We just won't see him physically, but he hasn't gone nowhere because he's given too much and left too much for us to go back and reflect on. So he's continuing to prepare us. Many of us will see it as a disaster. Many of us will feel heartbroken. I know I will feel heartbroken. I will feel broken the same as I did when my mother and my father made their return to Allah. But they haven't gone anywhere either, because I'm constantly looking in the mirror and hearing my mother speak to me, or hearing my father say something to me, or seeing them. So the minister has given us so much to make us understand that the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad is still alive. And as long as we know that and can prove it to ourselves, forget about proving it to somebody else. Know it yourself in your heart. We are going to be heartbroken, but for many of us, it's going to be a disaster, because they're going to forget the teachings, he said, not the personality. The principles of Islam. Stay on your deen. It's Islam. It's Allah you should be attached to, not to him.
Yes, ma'am.
So that would be what I would say. How do we keep ourselves? Keep your faith. Don't say you have faith. Practice your faith. If you're living it truly now, there should be no change. We don't see him every day. We don't see him every Sunday.
That's right. That's true.
So what's making you stay to it between one Sunday to the next, or to the next time you see him? Well, you waiting for Savior's Day to see him.
Yes, ma'am.
How do you see the Nation of Islam upon the return of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan? What
Sure.
state will we be in, do you think?
I think, sister, that I used to be in the martial arts, and I don't care how good you are. If you're fighting a worthy opponent, most certainly you will get bruised and black eye, bloody nose. And sometimes you're not careful, knocked out of the game altogether. I believe those of us that sincerely submit our will and be obedient servants, that what they talked about on the believers meeting the other day, obedience is better than sacrifice. And if we remain obedient, we remain in prayer, we remain in fasting, we remain in study, we may not look like we look right now, You know, my suit jacket might be hanging back here like that.
Yes, sir.
But if we survive, see, the key word is how strong is your foundation? Can you survive? So a survival person don't look like a person that just went through a fight. Survival is different.
Yes, sir.
You're in a plane crash and you survive. Well, you may have a broken leg. You may be some piece of metal may have cut through your shoulder or something, but you're alive, so you can be healed from that. But you ain't gonna look like you look when you first got on the plane.
Right.
So we may be a little beat up, bruised. You know, may not have all of the luxuries that we have now. I may be unshaved, and may have like a 6-month-old beard or 3-year-old beard on my face or something.
Yes, sir.
But I believe we will be alive. And after that, the same work that the God did on the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, because on that mother wheel is actually a new civilization, new grass, new cattle. And then, of course, he will give the Honorable Elijah Muhammad a new body. He already has the same thing for the minister of all of the maladies that he's suffering from. And so if he can do that with them, with one, from one comes all things. The minister used to ask the question, he would put up a pen and say, how many pens do you see? You might say one, but in reality, this pen, when it was first produced, it might be 1,000 pens just like this, but you could not have had 1,000 pens until you had what? One.
When he comes back, they're going to be so shocked and in awe. Then they are going to reflect, have I done and lived the life that I would be proud to share with him? Yes. When he asked me the question, what have you been doing? Will I be able to say that I've been living the life of an MGT, GCC, or if it's an FOI, have I been living the life? Have I been working to keep our nation, #1 nation? Have I have I worked to kill the spirit of Satan? Not only that which one we know to be and looking at, but in myself and in others. That's right. Can I show that? We're going to sit there and look at him and start questioning yourself. Oh my God, if he calls me up, what am I going to say? We're going to be in awe of him returning, but then we're going to be in reflection. How can I prove what I said I was going to do? Because the most honorable Elijah Muhammad said the time will come when we can put all of us in one taxi cab. When he returns, is that going to be the number? There's going to be a great falling away when he leaves initially. What is it going to look like when he comes back and returns and say, my father sent me back, okay, to make a check? What are we going to look like? I think there'll be a number of us still around. Will I be around? I don't know. I doubt it. I hope to. I pray to. I don't know what kind of condition I'll be at 100. I pray. Okay. What will we have to show for ourselves? What is he going to come back and see? How many of us are going to be here? Wow. So when he returns, I don't think it's going to be, I pray and hope that it will be a glorious time. My true feeling is I don't think it's going to be. I think he's going to come back to disappointment. I pray I'm wrong. I pray to Allah that I am completely wrong, but I'm so afraid that that's what's going to happen. So that then that means we have to work harder because he's not here.
Yes.
And look what's in the pulpit. Look what's up there. We shouldn't.
Yes, ma'am.
We shouldn't. We should be stronger than strong. That's just my own personal fear. I just pray I'm wrong. I'm looking at top soldiers, as you said, in my family. I'm looking at top soldiers.
Yes, ma'am.
On the brothers and sisters side, coming out of my family. We're working hard to make sure y'all stay there.
Yes, ma'am.
Making sure you stay there. The children behind them, as long as Allah gives me life, you stay there.
And we need not make the mistake. We can make a choice now. We have the script.
Right.
We know it's prophecy, not past. We're walking into what was prophesied in the past because that's how our people did it. They wrote it in advance and then we walk right into it. And that's what we're doing now. So we can avoid the scientists that became disappointed or manifesting that characteristic because we got the history. We got it in our hands. We've been given advance warning.
Yes, sir. Beautiful.
So if we study, ingest it.
Yes, sir.
Then we stand the absolute opportunity of 90 to 100% of escaping.
Yes, sir.
What those of us failed in the first examination. There's absolutely no reason for this generation to fail, but we have to believe it, love it, hold on to it, and I believe that Allah will bless us.
Yes, sir.
To not fail, but pass. We will beat, I believe, the prophet's predictions with this generation because you all are the intellectuals, the scholars, the degreed ones that now have brought that scholarship and have obtained the knowledge of self. So you no longer use your knowledge to serve your master. You use your knowledge now to serve your own and your own nation. So there's no reason for us to miss it this time, except that we want to be a hypocrite and we chose that particular actor in this drama. I want to be a hypocrite, a disbeliever, or do I want to be a believer, steadfast, or foremost? Those are the choices. I want to be amongst the foremost. I want to be amongst those that no matter what comes down the pipe. Come on, dragon, spew your flood.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Only if I gonna swallow it up, I'm gonna spit it back up in your face.
I too want to be in that number, sir. Absolutely.
When the saints go marching in.
Come on now. Yes, sir.
How can we turn this around? How can we prevent mental health illness or even mental health issues happening after the departure of the Honorable Minister Farrakhan? How do we avoid heartbreak that a lot of you believers
they're gonna have to understand life and death. That is a continuum. And the minister has been through a lot. I have been through a lot in my 80 years. And so,
yes, sir.
You know, just about everything we've been taught is being in symbols and parables and demonstrations. So when he said he's going to his father on the wheel, all the other prophets were saying they was going these different places, but like he said, he took his teachings and he took us up to a certain point. Now there's going to come another wisdom that is greater than this one.
So, you know, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has prepared the believers for his departure. I know the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had maybe said some things or whatnot So it may have been a shell shock, to a lot of believers who are not prepared for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's departure. What are some of the suggestions based on your experience? How do you think the best way, or what advice would you give for those who didn't experience the departure of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad? What advice would you give to those, knowing that the minister is about to leave, and he told us he's about to leave? What is the best way to prepare for his departure when he leaves?
I think the best way to prepare for his departure is to strengthen our belief, because he has always told us to read, study, gain the knowledge of who we are,
right,
and increase that knowledge to where we can gain the heights of God.
Right.
And so I think if we concentrate on that, in the lessons, in his lectures, everything that he is about, and being that he is the very, very best example,
right,
of what we should be, we can take on that strength that he showed us.
Yes, ma'am.
And use that strength when we go forward, because we know what the mission is.
That's right.
To raise the dead.
Yes, ma'am.
And so I think if we concentrate on that instead of leaving or the departure,
right,
then we'll be all right.
Yes, ma'am. Praise be to Allah.
What I intend to do is be a brother.
Yes, sir.
I firmly believe that if we don't have a divine connection with Allah, Master Fard Muhammad in this instance, that we're not going to survive. Many of us are looking for the next heir apparent to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Some were saying Brother Nuri, some were saying Student Minister Ishmael. And I was hearing these things and thinking, I don't think that's the next step, that was going to be a personality.
Right, right.
I think that we're closing the chapter on personalities.
Right.
And we now collectively, and we've talked about this, have to do as a unit what we've witnessed Allah, God, and his apostle endow the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan to do, seemingly by himself.
Right.
His faith, good Lord, we can't, that's another subject.
Right.
But what he was able to accomplish as a young man.
Right.
Young man, meaning he was doing what we witnessed then with the age that I am now.
Right, right.
So he did the impossible when he breathed life back into this nation, but he was backed by those two.
Right.
And so he's shown us over an expanse of years how to connect to the source. And that's where our success will be.
You come into the Nation of Islam and you come into a reality,
right?
A new world, right? And the new world started in 1930. And you have incidents throughout that period of time. We're 92 years now. You have incidents throughout this period of time. And so therefore, if I'm in this new world and this new reality, I must know what this reality is. And I know the problems that exist along the way, which create our history. You know what I mean? And it tells us the ebb and flow, the ups and downs.
Right.
So if I'm coming in behind that, I'm running into those same issues. But the history shows us what we should do and what we should not do based on the actions of individuals, and our major history started with the Honorable brother, back in the 30s, 34, when he was assigned by Master Farrakhan Muhammad, how they sought to kill him.
Right.
All right. Then the next major that we had is Malcolm, right?
Right.
Then we had Muhammad Ali, right? Then we had the ministers throughout the nation. All of them gave us a certain history on behavior, on the emotion they suffered based on what happened in that history that we had to deal with. The police, we had to deal with our family, all that's history. So therefore, when you're coming in and you read that and you walking into these histories, you got lessons to tell you what to do.
That's right. Go ahead.
You know what I mean?
Right,
you got lessons to tell you what to do and what to understand and what to know. And then you can use that in your own mind and then see it further.
Yes,
but you got to know the history.
That's right.
And that's why, as a child, you study history. And that's why Diamond's point out history. But we are studying everybody else's history. We are studying the Bible history. We are studying the Quran history.
Right.
But we won't study the history of the Nation of Islam, you understand? Because we are not affected by the world history so much, but we are affected by the history of the Nation of Islam. Right there. Because what happened is that there are mistakes that were made, right? You know, by men, right? And misunderstanding the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, misunderstanding the word of God, misunderstanding the direction and the course that God has put the Honorable Elijah Muhammad on, and this body of knowledge that Master Muhammad gave him. So we miss that from the male side and from the female side. So what we need is that when we read that history and I'm coming along, then I know what to do and what not to do.
Exactly.
And if I'm a believer, then and I believe in the minister, I believe in the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and then I must do exactly what they did. Now, if I do what exactly, but then there's a lesson I'll learn personally for myself. You know what I mean? And I'll see my own growth and development of starting that, and that would make me proud of myself because I have passed their test by their permission and by their example. So therefore, when I do it, my love grow for the minister, my love grow for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, my love grow for Master Prophet Muhammad, my love go for the originator, you understand, and my love go for the nation.
So what advice would you give to our great nation of Islam, the believers now? Just what advice would you give them as one of our pioneers?
We have to get an understanding of what is and what's going to be. And he's given us that understanding. But a lot of times you don't pay attention to the understanding that he's giving you. Like when I was working on televisions, I had a lot of problems that occur many times, so I didn't even troubleshoot the television. I just go right to the source. But then if you go right to what you think the source and that don't work, then you got to go back to step one. And go, we got to go for what he taught us. And if you go back to the knowledge that he taught you, it'll give you to the answer that you got, your question that you got now about what you're going to do when he passed. Because we didn't understand what we was going to do when the messenger passed. And so there was a lot of problems about who was going to do it. Mr. Farrakhan or Mr. Bali.
The advice that I would like to give is I would like to see, because I do remember in the first resurrection, it was a different mindset back then. It was a different attitude. They had way more discipline than what we have now, because the messenger did not play. And the one thing that I really did see was the unity. And that is what I would like to see come back in our time, is the unity that was like it was back in the day.
Absolutely.
When I look at a lot of times in the early years of either the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, in the early days, because of the grind that the believers had to go through, they developed a love for each other. You're not just for the minister. You know, now we say the minister, but they had a great love for one another. When I hear the testimonies, like when they were doing the tribute to Brother Kareem, you know, the Eastern Regional, I heard love not just for the minister, but love for one another. So how is that, you know, how is that going to help us? You know, because yes, it's isolated, but we also have to, we're going through this together as well. How would that, the love of the brotherhood and the sisterhood, how do you think that help us survive as well in this departure?
And you really answered it in the question, because we need, struggle is ordained. It's a law. And we need a struggle. It helps us to stay focused. It helps us to stay fixated on what's really important. And right now, when you have believers who are bickering, little scuffles going on, you know, okay, there's an alignment that needs to happen here. So these kind of things won't even qualify to be discussed, right? This is more important. And I think that that's one of the things that will come from this. As you were talking, I thought about some years back, and this is going to be short, but we had an investment group at Mosque 18, Brother Roland put together. We were yielding 30% on our investment. right? This was before Bernie Madoff and his 24%,
right?
Which he was lying about 24%, but we were seeing that 30%. Just astronomical numbers, right? That the FOI was doing. And then we had an event take place where some legalities kicked in. This is Cleveland, so, you know, we knew we were going to have a trial. Somebody's going to try us.
Right. And
sure enough, some young brothers broke into the van and stole some of our coats or our products, and we responded to that. brother. Not to say that as we now are approaching this event, we will have to actually become one to survive it. Allah is going to arrange the circumstances. He says in the Quran, we were all standing on the brink of a pit of fire.
Right.
But he unites the hearts.
Right.
And saved us from it. So the pit of fire is sometimes necessary so that Allah God can use that to help us to solidify, man, and then win against the impending threat. So that's kind of how I see that coming with the minister's ascension and a plethora of other gifts, skills, and talents that the believers will exhibit once they have to.
Right.
We're already seeing hints of it now. So we thank Allah for being the center of our reality.
Right.
And we want to keep him there so we don't lose our focus, man, and start to fall apart.
Right.
With grief and all those kind of things that we will go through before we finally get back and say, wait a minute, y'all, this is what else is happening here. So let's get ourselves together and get ready for the win.
Yes, sir. Praise be to Allah. So you talked about your 3 years, right?
Right.
In your 3 years, you said the last year you kind of it was difficult. Right?
Yeah.
So the minister said he's leaving us for 3 years, right?
Right.
So seeing that, you know, based upon your experience,
right?
You know, okay, I survived 2 years. That third year was rough. What do you suggest, based upon your experience or what you had to experience? What do you suggest for the believer so that they can survive the 3 years?
Well, the believers should study the departure of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Because the ministers follow in the same pattern. So if I know what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and all those issues that happened with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, you understand, then the minister following the footprints, so the similar thing that happened to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is what's going to happen to the minister.
That's right.
So therefore, if I know what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad went through and what we had to deal with, then of course, you understand, I will be able to deal with the minister. And the major thing that they had to deal with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, you understand, that caused the nation to fall was the domestic life of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, which is spelled out in Study Guide number 18, Rise Above Emotion and into Thinking of God.
Right.
So the believer should get deep into Study Guide number 18.
Right.
I mean, and see those emotions that are going to come up as a result. And if we got the history of what happened to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, these similar history going to happen to us if we haven't read. If we don't know, we don't understand. So the blueprint of what we must do lies in here.
That's right.
He had wives, not girlfriends. When he had wives and they had children, he had enough money to go to those women and say, get to the abortionist, damn it, and have an abortion like some of you men do. When you know that the woman you sleeping with has become pregnant, you go and tell her to get an abortion because you don't want a witness of your infidelity. But Elijah Muhammad did no such thing. Go on and have the babies because that's my future. Those are going to be my sons and my daughters going on into the future. You may not understand me now, but in years to come, you will bear witness that I did nothing wrong.
The next big test is that we have to know by now, we should know through the minister whether the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is physically alive.
Right.
Even through Brother Jibril, even through Mother Talata Muhammad, because they are the ones who bear witness to the Honorable Minister Farrakhan, Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and Master Prophet Muhammad. Right. So if I'm into reading Brother Jibril, right, if I'm reading into what Mother Talata Muhammad has written, then of course, you understand, they will reinforce my knowledge and reinforce my understanding.
Right.
So therefore, now I'm equipped. Now the question is that what are you equipped to do? Well, the minister leaving has his job to do.
Right.
Your job is to continue the nation.
Right.
So therefore, you have to equip yourself and allow the minister to go where he has to go.
Exactly.
And your job is to keep the nation going while he's gone.
Yes, sir. When you look, you mentioned about personality, how you saw how the minister, he went in a different direction, which I thought was wise. Because like you said, he's not focusing on personality, but he put together a council of people. How do you think that, and how do you see that in the wisdom of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and how we would survive that 3 years of, in his departure? How do you see the council? How do you see that? How did you see it then, and how do you see it now when that happened?
It's consistent with the standard of the Holy Quran, right? And it's divine wisdom from the minister,
right?
Knowing that we were not going to follow one person,
right?
How do you follow another dude after you've had Minister Farrakhan anyway?
Right.
So, but it's just to me, he and like he always reminds us, I know you all pretty well,
right?
And he does, brother. And when I listen to him more now, I really understand that this man is divinely guided. In FOI class just on Monday, we're reading from what I believe were probably final call building lectures. And I'm thinking, boy, this is divine revelation if I've ever heard it.
Right.
And I'm hearing it differently now, to your point, for reasons that we couldn't hear it the way we would have heard it now then, because of where we are in history. I think that as it relates to just, again, trying to inspire the new believer or the old believer or the medium believer who's going to be coming down the road, trying to stay sane and continue to keep their balance.
Right.
As the sun sets, the shura or the council is it's a decent group. By my estimation, a divine group.
Right.
That he is selected to do this work. And they're already doing a good job. People don't even realize they're already making big decisions for the Nation of Islam. So it's already in effect.
Yes, sir.
So again, thank you to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan for always looking way down the road, and meeting our needs.
Now the minister in his wisdom, he set up the National Council, and that during the time of the departure of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, many other ministers came and tried to say that they were the one, they were this, they were that. What are some of the things that we can do as believers not to get snared by, I guess you say, false prophets or false people? What do you think what are some of the things we can do to not get snared by other people so that they won't take us off the course that Minister Farrakhan has put us on?
Well, the Nation Army, like I put on the course of building the Nation of Islam, doing the work.
Right.
The minute you engage in the work and you building the nation, because we have to be in the political and economic aspect of our nation now. We have to build economically so we can have political power, right?
Right.
That means we have to open businesses and the whole bit, like the American side. The problem with the American side is they build, and they offer opportunities for everybody to come, and the Elijah had given us a chart, you understand, where organization chart, we had the Elijah Muhammad nationhood, mosque, then they have education on this end, and then they had all the economic, which is called food, clothes, and shelter. All right, then. So the individual, you understand, supposed to get his spiritual grounding based in God so he can know what he is.
Right.
Then he must develop his skill and talent, right? And then when he develops his skills and talent to do something, then he must go into food, clothes, and shelter, health, technology, and I add transportation.
Right.
Because that's where the money is. And that's where the world is built in that area, you understand? And as Mother Teta Muhammad spoke now, if you get the spiritual part, then you got S. If you get the education part, you got E. And if you get the economic part, you got E. So therefore you got SEE. So if you get that right, you can see what you need to do.
Yes, sir. Praise be to
Allah. Now,
right.
So the thing is that if we work now to build the nation, our focus is too much on the mosque, but not education and economics to build. What is the purpose of us getting all this knowledge, getting all this understanding, yet go to the white man to get a job and take all our experience, take all our talent, take our culture and put it in this side, because we work in this side, we go and we represent who and what we are and what we was taught. So he get the benefit of that.
Right.
But if you had your own businesses, then now what happens now? Then that stays within the confines of what you are.
Right.
So when the young brother's coming along, you understand, then what you'll do is say, come on in, brother, get your spiritual teaching, get your economic, get your education, and then you come to my business. I own an insurance company, I own a automobile, I own a manufacturing factory, I own this, I own that. So now when the brother he comes in this environment, the sister come in, and their way is continued. But when you send them, you give them all the knowledge, and you send them back to the white man for building this world, then he loses because he gives most of himself to the man. And then you create a contradiction in his mind, because now you get more from him than the promise from yours.
Yes, sir.
What the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said to the Honorable Minister Farrakhan, when he said that you had one more thing to do before you see me face to face.
Sure.
Okay. Do you think that one more thing, because if you follow the path of Jesus or his life, you know, from the beginning to the end, that last trial there was crucifixion.
Sure.
Do you think
Yes.
that that's the last thing?
Most certainly. Well, according to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, most certainly that's ultimately the ultimate one more thing was, of course, he would have to go through the portals of death.
Yes.
Not necessarily physical death, but the appearance of such, or the pains of it anyway, with perhaps arrest and attempt to kill him and all of those things, but they won't be successful. But the other thing was, in the one more thing, was to, number one, form Christ in us. As Paul said, I cannot leave until Christ is formed in them. Okay. And so we can bear witness with the various writings and the full page article in the center of the final call by Brother Demetric Muhammad. Yes. And we are Farrakhan, that we are actually becoming him, and more believers are coming forward with their beautiful talents and gifts that Allah has blessed them to go through. And then the minister pulling in our intellectual class of young people and that whole Joshua Messiah generation. So that was one of the one more things, forming Christ in us, getting us prepared and ready. Now we got the study guys, and many people are going out here now can evangelize and help our people see, because now they're not only getting it from the minister, but they're getting it from a brother that you went to school with, articulating that kind of information and research. And so you can relate now. It's always easier for people to relate to somebody that's their peer, somebody's in their age bracket, somebody who went through the same vicissitudes of life that they went through. So that was one of the one more things, preparing us collectively and individually in this body of knowledge of the revelation of Allah to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Minister Farrakhan. So those were some of the one more things. But the ultimate one more thing, of course, was that he, like the Jesus, would have to pass through the portals of death, or that threat of the death. But of course, Allah will deliver him, and then he will be gone for approximately 3 years. And when he comes back, of course, he'll have that new book. And the power of the white man, of course, will have been broken by that time. As we see in this Ukrainian thing, it's going to escalate, and America will be pulled in. Her European allies will betray her. And then the war of Armageddon that he will announce in February, inshallah, we may very well be almost all the way up into it by that time. And most certainly that would probably also be the time. I mean, I'm not saying that it is, when that could also be the time that's the last time we will hear from him in that kind of world communication before the ascension or his departure takes place.
In the council, I have a council, 13 people. And that council is protection for him. None of us can dictate. And even though I have the right to, I don't use that kind of power. I always try to get you to do what I ask with reasoning. The council is made of intelligent men and women, and you have the power to overcome resistance by the power of your truth. Remember that. The law settles all arguments. We can win. We can go through the dark hour as long as we stay together in love with our Allah, who came in the person of Master Farrakhan Muhammad, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. But you cannot deviate from me. I'm not saying that because I've been perfect in guiding you, but I've been so close to it in my obedience to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
Yes, sir.
And that's the greatest sacrifice that you can make, is obedience to your teacher. So look at how my obedience to him has carried us 40 years, 44 years. So look at you. You really came out to hear the song of the swan. Well, I'm going up yonder. Why are you going up yonder? Because he promised me that if I went through the crucifixion, he didn't say it like that. He said, you got one more thing to do. That's what he said. But I didn't know what the one more thing is, so I did every one more thing I knew. And I ended up at the cross. And that's the one thing that I have to go through. But guess what? I look forward to it. Did you hear what I said? I look forward to spending my life for the truth that I taught all these years. And if God takes my life, I'm pleased. No, listen, this is the truth. Because the nation ain't gonna die. Many of us, we can carry this thing on, can't we? Yes, sir. Because we got the blueprint, we got the man, we got the knowledge, and you got my example. But I don't believe you're gonna let me die. No, I got my ticket. Paul said, I have finished my course. I have fought the good fight. My God. I have kept the faith. Now is laid up for me what? And I go to my Father to receive it. There's 10,000 more years of knowledge in this 25,000 year cycle. He may give me much of it or some of it to bring back. If you pass the test while I'm gone, I'm telling you all the time, he's been testing me. Oh, hey, you got to get yours. But you can pass this test. Will you pass it? Will you ask Allah to bless you and strengthen you so you can pass it? And I will be praying for you because you have proved that you are great believers in him. But I have to beg you humbly. You can't get to him without me. he made me a door. I didn't ask him to make me no door, but I am a door. And the door. So I'm going to take leave of you now. But I sure love you. Really do. Thank you.
If you had the opportunity to meet him, would you say anything to him? Would you, to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan talking? What would you say, or would you say anything? If you had the
I would
opportunity.
probably be in shock for one. But I think that one thing that I would hope to get myself together enough to just thank him.
Right.
Thank him for being here for us and being that example and being what his father had taught him to be.
Yes, ma'am.
Because in that he has led us to the gates.
To close this out, what would you like to say to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan before he departs, join his father?
I would say that maybe I don't understand what's going to be, but based on what you have taught me in the present, gives me faith, some faith. I ain't got 100% faith, because though none of us, all of the prophets in the past, what they said they was gonna do, we don't know about that. We just read about it. See, so right now we got to live based on the understanding that he's given us today that should help us understand a little bit about what's going to happen in the future when he goes on. Because we didn't understand who could even get close to giving us the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. But I think Minister Farrakhan I don't know how his brain holds all of that.
I would like to say to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, thank you, dear Holy Apostle, for saving me from myself, pulling me from the brink of a pit of fire and resurrecting me for the second time. I would say to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, thank you for saving my life, saving the life of my family, and saving the life of generations yet unborn. I would like to say to you, dear Holy Apostle, thank you for loving me when I didn't know how to love myself.
Now, what would you like to say to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan before he rejoins his father?
What I would like to say to him, I would like to thank him for his service, and I cannot thank him enough for the sacrifice that he had made to see us through, to make sure that we're on the right path for those who choose to be. So much gratitude for my brother. I love him.
Of course, I like to tell him how much I love him, how much I appreciate him, and what great works he's done for me as a human being, by his example. By his example personally as a human being, as the minister himself, by his example of being the helper of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, right? And by his example, you understand, of helping black people, and by helping and loving black people, and by his example of taking up this monumental task, that's prophesied that he would do, taking this monumental task, to rebuild the Nation of Islam.
Yes, sir.
And our job is to lift that burden off of him, just like he has lifted the burden off the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in his departure.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
Right.
And rebuild the nation. We have to be able to lift the burden off the minister and rebuild the nation.
I wouldn't ask the minister one thing. because he has already answered it. More than 80 million words, I did the math one day, since he has stood back up and rebuilt the work of his Father. And I thought, you know what, if I could, certainly we want to say thank you, but that's cliche now.
Right.
We love you. That's cliche to me.
Right.
Because I hear folks saying that, but then their audio does not match the video.
Right.
You say you love him, but then you don't do one thing for your brother or the dead who's out there languishing in the dirt, but you love him. And that's his primary assignment.
Right.
So I would say thank you. I try to exhibit the love by being what I think he would want me to be. And I think that's more important to him than anything else. When brothers ask me, how can I help you, brother? I say, be a good father and be a good husband to the best of your ability. Because if we can do that, we can keep a solid foundation in our nation.
Right.
Be a good father, be a good husband, and try to be the best believer, man.
Right.
Be sincere. Tell the truth. I mean, that's huge.
Right.
Tell the truth. But I would thank the minister for my unborn grandchildren, my unborn great-grandchildren, and generations to come, who all stand to benefit, to inherit, the Holy Quran says, this great mantle that he has helped to construct. The big three, Master Fard Muhammad, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and the Honorable Louis Farrakhan. And to thank him for allowing me the opportunity to in any way, shape, or form bear witness.
That's right.
And that's really it, brother. I wouldn't have anything else after that.
Yes.
All praise is due to Allah. I do hope you've enjoyed our Savior's Day gift video production and that you will put it to use. May Allah continue to bless you and your family and this great nation of Islam to prosper and be ushered into the hereafter. Assalamu alaikum.
You gotta have it. You gotta have it. You gotta have it. Knowledge of life. You gotta have it. You gotta have it. You gotta have it. Knowledge of life. You gotta have it. You gotta have it. You gotta have knowledge for life. You gotta have it. You gotta have it. You gotta have knowledge.